The forest of Carix, 9 shimmered under a cold blue sky, where the stars were too close and the air smelled faintly of metal. Around a crackling campfire, 4 figures sat in a half circle. The firelight painted their faces, 3 alien, 1 unmistakably human. Cameras hummed silently above them, floating on repulsor fields, streaming every second to billions across the galaxy. The show was called Last Light, Carix. The rule was simple: survive 5 nights. No weapons above Class 3. No external help. And definitely, no leaving the planet early unless you wanted to lose your organs or your pride. Lieutenant Tvar, the Neral tactician, spoke first. His scale mandibles clicked softly as he recited the old legend of the Umbra Stalker, a creature that learned by watching, a shadow that could mimic voices, laughter, even the rhythm of a heartbeat. Around him, the others listened. Miri, the medic with silver skin that shimmered like glass. Grusk, a massive Thrawn warrior whose armor still bore the scars of another world. And Lien, the only human, sitting quietly, roasting a strip of protein loaf on the fire. The Umbra Stalker hunts for joy, Tvar said, his voice a low hiss. It kills not for hunger, but for the thrill of learning. It leaves no tracks, no scent. When you hear your own voice whisper your name from the dark, you are already dead. Silence fell. The fire cracked, sparks swirling up into the blue mist. For a long moment, only the sound of the alien night filled the air. Strange clicks, distant moans, and something that might have been laughter, carried by the wind. Then Lien looked up from the fire and broke the tension with 5 words that stopped everyone cold. I wonder what it tastes like. 3 alien heads snapped toward him. Grusk blinked twice, unsure if he had heard correctly. Miri's tendrils twitched in alarm. Even Tvar froze mid-breath, his scaled face unreadable. Taste, he echoed, as if the word itself was dangerous. Lien shrugged, casual and calm. You said a hunt's for fun. That means it's smart. A smart predator usually has good muscle density, lean fibers, maybe even flavor. He bit into the ration loaf, chewed thoughtfully, and added, probably needs some spice though. The campfire popped. The sound seemed louder than it should have been. The drones zoomed closer. Somewhere in a control booth orbiting high above, a producer whispered to another, "We just struck gold." Across 1,000 star systems, audiences leaned forward in their seats. Grusk growled, "You think this is a joke, human? The Umbra is not meat. It is death. Everything's meat to something." Lien said softly, his eyes on the forest. "Even death gets eaten eventually." Tvar's crest flared in anger. "This is why humans should never have been allowed in this show. You mock what you don't understand." Lien smiled faintly, the firelight reflecting in his brown eyes. "On Earth, we tell ghost stories around fires too, but ours always in the same way. Someone goes into the dark to prove the story wrong." For a long moment, no one spoke. The wind rustled the crystalline leaves. The flames swayed. Then, from somewhere deep in the forest, a sound answered them, long, hollow, and haunting. It was not an animal's call. It sounded almost curious. Miri stood slowly, scanning the tree line. "Did anyone—" The sound came again, closer this time, a whisper made of wind and static. "Lien." Everyone froze. The drones drifted higher, lenses tightening their focus. The viewers at home saw the human's expression shift, not fear, but fascination. Lien stood, staring into the dark, where the fog moved like breath. "Guess we're not alone anymore," he said, voice calm, almost amused. "Tevor hist, mondi bles clicking." We make camp tighter. No one wanders. Not tonight. But Lien didn't sit. His gaze lingered on the moving fog, on the shape that might have been mist, or might have been watching them. Slowly he smiled. "Perfect," he murmured. "Dinner's curious." The others stared at him in disbelief as he tossed another log into the fire. The flames rose higher, painting the trees in wild, flickering orange. Out beyond the light, something shifted. Leaves rustled. Then silence again. The night of Carix stretched around them, endless, alive, and waiting. And above them, billions of viewers held their breath, wondering if the human's curiosity was bravery or madness. Because somewhere in that mist, something else was now wondering too. What does a human taste like? Dawn came pale and uneasy on Carrick's 9. The fog that rolled between the blue-black trees didn't lift. It just changed color, trading night's deep cobalt for a dim, greenish haze that turned every shadow into something half alive. The forest didn't sound right, either. It wasn't quiet. It was listening. Lien was the first to move. He crouched near the fire pit, poking the ashes with a stick, watching the gray smoke rise in slow ribbons. The other 3 were silent, too alert, too tired. They had all heard the whisper last night. Every replay on the production drone confirmed it. A human voice, distorted but perfectly clear. Tvar broke the silence. It mimicked you. His tone was tight, forced. That means it's close. Lien didn't look up, or it's learning. He said it like a weather report. No fear, no urgency. Just a fact. Grusk snarled. We should move camp. Burn this place down. And tell it exactly where we're going. Lien glanced at the warrior, a half-smile curling his lips. No, let's stay. I want to see what it does next. That answer made the aliens exchange glances. Miri's translucent tendrils flickered with agitation. Humans are impossible, she muttered. The drones hovered closer. The audience could almost feel the tension through their screens. Billions were watching one man play chicken with a myth. By midday, the forest had started to change. The trails they used the night before were gone, covered by fresh moss and frost, as if the ground had healed overnight. Even the scent markers Grusk left had vanished. The Umbra wasn't just following them, it was erasing them. They found a fur sign near a fallen log. A claw mark, deep, precise, deliberate. But it wasn't random. It was shaped like a human hand. 5 fingers, perfectly proportioned. Tevorhist. It knows what you look like now. Lien crouched and brushed frost from the carving. No, he said quietly. It knows we know it's here. That's not a warning. That's a hello. The drone zoomed in. Across the galaxy, chat feeds exploded. The human's insane. He's flirting with death. He's trying to communicate. Miri shook her head. You're giving it too much credit. No, Lien said, standing up, brushing his hands off. I'm giving it respect. That's how hunters talk. Moves, marks, symbols. He spent the next hour building something. The others watched in disbelief as he scavenged old ration wrappers, wire from his exosuit, even the drone's spare sensor nodes. He built a crude motion grid, makeshift sensors hidden under frost, tinfoil strips that would vibrate at the slightest airflow change. What are you doing? Miri asked. Listening, Lien said. If it's smart enough to study us, I want to study it. The grid went live with a faint hum. For hours, nothing happened. The team sat in silence, scanning the fog. Even the drones kept their distance, their recording lights dimmed to a respectful glow. Then, near sunset, one of the sensors pinged and immediately went dead. Did it trigger? Tevar barked. Lien checked his makeshift console. The line wasn't broken. The signal hadn't tripped. It had been disconnected cleanly. It found it, he whispered, and it knew exactly how to shut it down. Everyone froze. Then came the sound, soft, deliberate footsteps circling their camp. Not rushing, not stalking, walking, like a teacher pacing before class. The firelight quivered as if the darkness itself leaned closer. Lien's hand drifted toward his sidearm. He didn't raise it. He just smiled slightly, like someone watching a puzzle solve itself. Smart, he murmured. Very smart. Tvar's voice was a whisper. It's hunting us. Lien's eyes didn't leave the tree line. No, he said. It's introducing itself. The forest exhaled. The fire flickered out. For a heartbeat, everything went black. When the emergency glow sticks kicked on, something new was in the center of camp. A single bone-white feather resting atop Lien's sleeping tarp. Perfectly placed. No prints. No scent. Miri backed away. It was inside the perimeter. Lien crouched beside the feather, studying it with fascinated calm. It's showing off, he said. It wants us to know how close it can get. He picked up the feather, turned it between his fingers, and looked toward the forest again. Message received. The cameras caught his faint grin as he added, under his breath, "Now let's see how it likes my tricks." Far off in the fog, a low, distorted laugh echoed back, his own voice laughing with him. The second night fell heavy on Carrick's 9, thick with fog that gleamed under twin moons like spilled milk. The forest pulsed faintly, alive with static and whispers. The crew of Last Light, Carrick's huddled close to the heat stones, every flicker of orange light devoured by the mist before it reached the trees. Lien sat apart, hands busy with scraps of wire and glass. The others tried not to look at him. The sound of metal clicking against metal had begun to feel like the ticking of a clock counting down to something inevitable. Miri finally broke the silence. "You should rest. You haven't slept since the first night. Sleep is for people who aren't being studied," Lien said. His voice was calm, but his eyes were bright and restless. "It's watching patterns. Every 4 hours, the insects stop chirping in a 6-meter arc. It's learning our routine. How do you even know that?" Lien smiled faintly. "Because I'm watching it watch us." He gestured to a crude web of reflective shards strung between branches. Broken visor glass, ration foil, melted ice. Every time it moves, it disrupts the air currents. The reflections shift. It's not perfect, but it gives me shapes. Silhouettes. The aliens exchanged uneasy looks. Gruss grumbled, "You're building toys when you should build walls." "Walls keep things out," Lien replied. "But hunters don't hide. They learn. They adapt. So let's give it something new to learn." He stood and began laying small discs around the perimeter, his new invention, the whisper mines. They weren't explosives. Each one was a reprogrammed proximity sensor that emitted a short burst of ultrasonic noise, inaudible to most species, but to something that hunted by echo, unbearable. "If it circles again," Lien said, "we'll hear it scream." The team said nothing. The human's calm certainty was beginning to feel contagious, dangerous even. Miri watched him in silence. She couldn't decide if he was brave or losing his mind. Maybe both. Hours passed. The night stretched on, taut as wire. The whisper mines sat silent. The forest didn't move. Then, somewhere deep in the fog, one mine triggered, just a flicker of red light. Then another. Then a third. Positions. Tevorhist. The group took cover. The sound that followed was not a scream. It was laughter. Lien's own voice, warped and echoing from 3 directions at once. "Clever, clever, clever," it mocked. Miri froze, scanning the darkness. "It's copying you." "No," Lien said softly. "It's answering." The mines went dark one by one, as if invisible hands were plucking them out of existence. Then, the fog parted just enough to reveal a sight that made even Grusk's iron stomach twist. Every destroyed sensor had been reassembled in a perfect circle around the campfire, humming faintly, lights blinking in sync. Lien stared, fascinated. "It's showing it understands our tools." Tevorhist. "It's mocking us, or teaching us," Lien whispered, like a predator showing a cub how to stalk. He stepped forward before anyone could stop him. The mist thinned slightly, revealing faint claw marks on a nearby trunk. They weren't random. They formed numbers. Prime numbers, scratched with surgical precision. "It's counting," he murmured. "It's thinking in sequence." Behind him, Miri's voice was barely a whisper. "Lien, come back. You're too close." He turned, smiling like a scientist mid-discovery. You don't get close to genius from a distance. That was when the ground shifted. The soil beneath the camp rippled, moved like something breathing just under the surface. The drones caught the moment perfectly. Grusk shouting, Miri stumbling backward, Tor raising his blaster, and Lien standing still, eyes wide, watching frost crack along the dirt in a perfect spiral pattern at his feet. "It's mapping us," he breathed. "Every heartbeat, every position." The spiral stopped. Silence. Then from the forest, a single sound rolled across the clearing. A deep, resonant hum that vibrated in their bones. Not a roar. Not a cry. Something stranger, like an engine testing its first breath. Lien exhaled slowly. It's learning how to talk. The others didn't move. Not until the hum faded. When they looked again, The claw marks on the tree had changed. Where there had been numbers, there was now a symbol. 5 strokes, radiating outward. Miri swallowed. What does that mean? Lien brushed his fingers across it, then looked toward the dark, whispering trees. It means, he said quietly, class is in session. The third night on Carix, 9 began without stars. Thick clouds rolled over the twin moons, trapping the camp under a dull violet sky that looked almost bruised. The air was heavy, wet, electric alive. Every sound felt magnified, every silence deliberate. Lien sat beside the dim fire, his face flickering between shadow and glow. Around him, the others kept their distance. The human had spent the last day drawing symbols in the dirt, copies of the marks the Umbra Stalker had carved into the trees. He wasn't writing, he was answering. Tor watched him with narrowed eyes. You're treating this thing like a pen pal. Lien didn't look up. Communication is the first step to control. Grusk's deep voice rumbled. Control? You think you can tame a stalker? No, Lien said, smiling faintly. I think I can make it curious. The alien warrior growled something under his breath and turned away. The medic, Miri, crouched beside Lien instead. Her glass-like skin caught the firelight in strange ways, bending it like liquid crystal. You've seen what it does, she whispered. Why keep provoking it? Lien's eyes flicked toward the mist. Because curiosity is what keeps hunters alive. The second we stop learning, we become food. He reached for a shard of metal and etched another line into the dirt, matching the alien symbol exactly. Then, with a fingertip, he added 1 extra mark. If it understands patterns, it'll notice that. The forest answered before anyone could speak. A faint rustle, then another. The drones adjusted automatically, lenses focusing on the treeline. The mist shivered. A low, melodic hum drifted through the clearing, half note, half growl. It's here, Tvar hissed, mandibles flaring. Good, Lien said softly. The sound changed. The hum split into multiple tones, weaving together like overlapping voices. A faint vibration passed through the ground. Then, impossibly, the same sound began to echo from Lien's wrist communicator. He froze. Miri's tendrils fluttered in alarm. It's hijacking the comm. No, Lien Guisperth. It's copying the signal. The communicator crackled, then produced a distortion. Words, broken but familiar. Lia on, stay. The voice was his own. Every muscle in the camp locked. Grusk's claws extended with a metallic click. Miri took an involuntary step back. Lien slowly reached for the communicator, his heartbeat visible in his throat. If you can mimic me, he said quietly, you can understand me. Silence. Then a faint chittering hum rolled through the trees. The communicator answered again, static thick and oily. Hungrai. Lien smiled grimly. Yeah, me too. Tvar swore in his native tongue. You're talking to it? Talking is free, Lien murmured. And every word tells me something. He crouched and drew another symbol beside the first. A spiral, simple and deliberate. He looked up at the forest. You leave marks. So can I. Let's see if you can follow directions. He placed a small ration bar in the center of the spiral and stepped back. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then a ripple passed through the fog. Something invisible disturbed the air. Too smooth, too controlled. The ration bar vanished. Miri gasped. Did it? Shoo. Lien held up a hand. His voice dropped to a whisper. Wait for it. From the darkness, a faint shape appeared. A long streak of light in the frost, drawn like a finger trailing through sand. When it reached the spiral, it stopped and added a single new mark. Lien exhaled slowly, a mixture of awe and satisfaction. It's responding. It's learning structure. Grusk growled. This isn't communication. It's measuring us. Maybe, Lien said, eyes still on the glowing mark. But at least now we know it prefers conversation to killing. He turned back toward the fire, and the others followed, their movements slow, cautious. Above them, the drones circled like silent moons. Billions of viewers across the galaxy watched the feed, breathless. When Lien finally sat, the communicator crackled one last time. Who man? The voice said, distorted but clear. He froze. The others stared. Then it added, play. The fire hissed as moisture hit the flames. Something vast moved just beyond the tree-line, heavy but graceful. The fog thickened again, swallowing shape, sound, and breath. Tvar tightened his grip on his weapon. It's not done with us. Lien's mouth curved into that familiar half-smile. Neither am I. The forest exhaled a long, low sound that might have been wind or laughter. And somewhere out there, the Umbra Stalker waited for its new game to begin. The fourth night on Carrick's, 9 crawled in like a living thing. The air was colder, the mist heavier. The fire hissed and sputtered as if it feared to burn too bright. Above, lightning flickered behind the clouds, silent, blue, and distant. No one spoke much anymore. Even the forest seemed to know that words could draw attention. Every leaf, rustle, sounded like breathing. Every echo felt intentional. Lien sat cross-legged, tightening the straps on his half-broken exosuit. It looked more like patchwork armor now, layers of wire, melted metal, and sheer stubbornness. Across from him, Miri cleaned her medical tools with slow, precise movements. Her eyes flicked toward the dark, then back to him. You shouldn't have answered it last night, she said quietly. He didn't look up. I didn't answer it. I just kept the conversation going. That's worse. Lien smiled faintly. Maybe, but we've learned more in 2 nights than your scientists have in a century. Tvar, ever the soldier, paced near the fire. You're not here to research. You're here to survive. The Umbra has seen our faces, our movements, our patterns. We are prey in its classroom. Then we stop being predictable, Lien replied simply. Ow! He stood, slinging the flamethrower over his shoulder. By teaching a lesson it's never learned before, fear. The word hung in the air like smoke. They moved before dawn, trekking through the narrow gorge east of their last camp. Frost clung to the rocks, glittering under the faint sun. The plan was simple. Reach the old mining vents and use the geothermal pockets to mask their scent and body heat. The Umbra tracked by sound and motion, but heat would confuse it. Halfway through the gorge, Grusk stopped dead. Look! Ahead, the path was covered in bones, not scattered but arranged. Dozens of alien skulls, stacked neatly in circles, each one polished clean. In the center of the formation was something new. Lien's missing ration bar, unopened, untouched. Miri's voice trembled. It's returning your gift. Lien stepped closer, examining the display. The arrangement wasn't random. It mirrored the spiral he had drawn days ago. No, he said softly. It's replying. He knelt, studying the symbols etched into the canyon wall beside the bones. The marks looked almost human now, crooked letters forming an attempt at a word. Play. Before anyone could react, the air trembled. The ground shook lightly. Then the mist in front of them split, parted by something unseen. It stepped forward slowly. The Umbra Stalker was real. Massive. Elegant. A patchwork of sleek muscle and flowing shadow. Its eyes, too many, too aware, reflected the firelight like molten glass. It moved like smoke, pretending to be solid. Tvar hissed and raised his blaster, but Lien held up a hand. Wait. The creature stopped a few meters away, head tilted. It was curious, studying them. For a long moment, neither moved. The drones hovered high, capturing every second. Lien took a slow breath. You wanted to play, he said softly. Then let's play. He reached into his pack and pulled out a small steel sphere, one of his homemade sensors, re-engineered. He tossed it lightly. It landed between them and beeped once before projecting a ring of harmless light onto the ground. The Umbra crouched low, sniffing the glow. Then, almost playfully, it dragged one claw through the circle, shaping it into a spiral. Miri's voice cracked. It understands. Of course it does, Lien whispered. It's been teaching us the same thing. But the creature wasn't done. Its voice, low, broken, stolen from recordings, rose from its chest in a soft mimicry. Human, brave, fool. Lien's grin widened, though his knuckles whitened around the flamethrower. All 3. You pick which one kills you first. The Umbra's chest rumbled, a sound like laughter under thunder. It took a step forward. Then the trap triggered. From the canyon walls, Lien's mirror bombs erupted in synchronized bursts. They didn't explode. They released blinding flashes and a pulse of disorienting sound. The light scattered through the mist like a prism storm. The Umbra staggered, hissing, its camouflage faltering. For the first time, the crew saw its true form. Armor plates of translucent black, ribs like glass, and within them, veins pulsing with pale, bioluminescent light. Now, Tvar roared. Plasma fire lanced through the fog. Grusk swung his hammer, sending sparks across the creature's hide. Lien charged. The beast met him with a screech that rattled stone. Claws tore through air, grazing his shoulder. He countered with a flamethrower, a jet of fire illuminating both man and monster in an infernal halo. Steam, light, and fury filled the canyon. The Umbra recoiled, shrieking, not from pain but from surprise. It turned, leaping back into the mist, vanishing as fast as it had come. Lien stood panting, smoke rising from his armor. "It bleeds," he said softly, staring at the drops of glowing fluid on his arm. "It can be hurt." Grusk rumbled approval. "Then we hunt." "No." Lien's tone was different, calm, but dark. "We don't hunt it." He looked at the glowing blood in his palm, eyes glinting with cold determination. "We teach it," he said, "that humans bite back." Somewhere deep in the fog, the Umbra laughed again, this time with his voice low and amused. By the fifth sunrise, the forest looked wounded. Ash hung in the air from the flamethrower's wake, and black scorch marks streaked across frost-blue bark. The mist no longer whispered, it watched. Lien stood near the shattered gorge wall, welding together pieces of twisted metal and polymer tubing. Sparks burst and fizzled in the cold. Behind him, the others tended to their injuries, silent, tired, but alive. Miri's voice was thin but steady. "You should rest. Your suit's bleeding fluid, your arms half-burned, and you've been awake for 30 hours. Lien didn't glance up. "If I stop now, it wins." Grusk snorted, adjusting the strap on his plasma hammer. "You already made it bleed. That's a win." Lien shook his head. "No, that was a lesson. This thing adapts faster than we can reload. If we don't stay unpredictable, it'll come back smarter." He glanced toward the trees, where shadows moved too smoothly to be natural. "It's already learning from us." Tevor grumbled. "And what are you building this time?" "Another death trap." Lien smirked. "Better. A mirror." That word made Miri frown. "A mirror." "Yeah," he said, tightening a bolt. "Every predator learns by reflection, movement, noise, behavior. So I'm going to give it something to reflect." The device looked like a strange insect. 6 prongs, 3 emitters, and a glowing orb in the center that pulsed faintly in rhythm with Lien's own heartbeat. "It mimics us," he continued. "Now, it'll have to decide which us is real." The plan was insane, even for a human. But on Carrick's 9, insanity had become the only kind of logic that worked. That night, they set up camp near a field of black crystal spires. The air shimmered faintly with static from the nearby geothermal vents. The mist had grown thinner here, but it carried sound strangely, every whisper returning twice, delayed, as if the forest itself repeated what it liked best. Lien placed the device at the center of the clearing. It began to hum, low, steady, hypnotic. Within seconds, it projected a faint holographic shimmer. Then, slowly, a human shape emerged in the glow. His own shape. Miri stared. "It's you." "Close enough," he said. I fed it my voice, my movements, even my heartbeat pattern. "It's going to confuse the Umbra's sensory map." The hologram turned its head in perfect sync with him, even breathed like him. Tvar muttered, "You built yourself a ghost." Lien smirked. "Exactly." Hours passed. The crew waited, every sound magnified by anticipation. Then, the temperature dropped. Frost began crawling over the crystal spires. "It's here," Grusk whispered. From the north, the mist parted in a slow spiral. The Umbra Stalker moved like a dream, unraveling, each step soundless, every motion graceful and deliberate. It was bigger now, its wounds glowing faintly beneath translucent skin. It stopped when it saw the projection. The creature tilted its head. The hologram tilted too. For a long moment, Predator and Phantom mirrored each other perfectly. Then the Umbra hissed. It lunged forward lightning fast, but passed through the projection harmlessly. Its claws hit nothing but air. The human illusion flickered, then turned its head, this time not synced with Lien's motion. The hologram raised a hand and pointed directly at the creature. Lien frowned. That's not me. The projection's voice, his voice, spoke. You learn. So do we. Miri gasped. It's hijacked your signal. Before anyone could react, the hologram distorted, reshaping into something else. Half human, half Umbra, flickering between the two forms. The voice deepened, layered now with echoes. Hungry to know. Hungry to be. Lien's hand hovered over the control trigger. It's trying to copy consciousness patterns, he muttered. It's using the link to read us. Tvar barked, then shut it down. I can't. Not yet. The creature circled the hologram, both forms studying each other like reflections in warped glass. For the first time, the Umbra hesitated, not out of confusion, but fascination. It reached out one clawed limb and lightly touched the projection. The light flared, then exploded outward in a pulse of blue-white energy that lit up the entire clearing. Everyone hit the ground. When the light faded, the hologram was gone. The device smoked and sparked. The Umbra staggered, disoriented, its surface flickering with fragments of human code, tiny patches of light that resembled words, bones, and veins. Lien stood, coughing. It tried to download me, he rasped. I reversed the circuit. The Umbra reeled, its voice cracking into static. Oh man, why? He raised his flamethrower, eyes cold and steady. Because we don't run from the dark. We teach it what burns. He fired. The flames erupted, roaring through the crystal field. The Umbra screamed, a metallic layered sound that shook the air. Then, with one last blinding flash, it vanished into the mist. Lien lowered the weapon, breathing hard. Lesson learned, he muttered. Humans aren't prey. With a test, you fail first. Far away, deep in the forest, the mist shimmered again. The Umbra's voice echoed faintly, soft, broken, but unmistakably curious. Teach more. Lien's grin returned, slow and tired. Oh, I plan to. The sixth sunrise on Carix. 9 looked nothing like a sunrise. The sky burned violet. The mist was orange with ash, and the frost on the trees had melted into glassy veins that reflected firelight instead of dawn. The forest wasn't sleeping anymore. It was waiting. Lien limped through the clearing, armor patched with scorched plates, a faint trail of blood marking his path. His breathing rasped through the helmet, slow, measured, stubborn. Behind him, the others packed what little they had left. The camp was gone, half their equipment fried from last night's pulse. But they were alive. Barely. Tvar's voice cracked through the comms. You heard it, didn't you? Before it fled? Lien nodded. Yeah, it said it wanted to learn more. Then it will come, Miri said quietly, sealing a wound on her forearm. It always does. He looked at her, exhaustion etched into every line of his face. That's the point. They moved out before noon, following the scarred canyon that led to the geothermal basin, Lien's final trap. The ground there was unstable, riddled with fissures and molten vents. The Umbra's camouflage would fail under the shifting heat signatures, and its acid sweat would turn volatile under thermal pressure. Dangerous for both predator and prey. Exactly the kind of place a human would choose to end a conversation. Hours passed before the first sign came. The whisper minds, what few still functioned, went silent again. Then the fog behind them thickened. A faint hum resonated through the ground. Grusk lifted his hammer. It's here. No, Lien said. It's everywhere. The voice came from a mist. Who man? Burn. Teach. The Umbra emerged slowly, climbing from the fog like a living storm. Its form had changed again. Parts of it glowed faintly with stolen human circuitry, thin lines of light tracing its body like veins of code. Its many eyes reflected both rage and fascination. It wasn't just a predator anymore. It was evolving. Lien stepped forward, flamethrower ready, his voice steady. You learned fast. Let's see what you understood. The Umbra tilted its head. Fear. It lunged. The canyon erupted in chaos. The beast struck like a collapsing star, claws slicing through rock. Lien dodged left, firing bursts of flame that exploded against the walls, igniting the vents. Steam blasted upward, coating everything in scalding mist. Grusk charged, roaring, but was swatted aside like dust. Thor fired bolt after bolt until his rifle overheated. Miri dragged him clear as another vent erupted, spewing molten gas. Lien's voice cut through the comms. Fall back. It's me at once. He turned and ran deeper into the basin, drawing the creature with him. The Umbra followed, fluid, relentless. The ground shook beneath their weight. Lien slid to a stop beside a fissure, the one he'd marked the night before. His HUD flickered red, energy levels critical. The flamethrower sputtered. Come on, girl, he muttered, smacking the side of the tank. One last breath. The Umbra loomed over him, silhouette framed by boiling steam. Its voice was softer now, almost curious. Who man? Not prey. Not predator. Why fight? Lien raised his head, smiling through the blood on his lips. Because that's what makes us human. We fight everything. Even the dark that wants to understand us. He hit the trigger. The flamethrower roared alive. The vent beneath them erupted, a column of white-hot gas blasting upward. The Umbra screamed, light tearing through its semi-liquid form. The flames reflected off its body like shattered glass, each burst revealing bones, nerves, and code all burning at once. The creature staggered, thrashing, then collapsed into the fissure. The ground split open, molten light swallowing a hole. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then silence. Lien sank to one knee, the flamethrower falling from his hand. Miri and Tvar rushed toward him as the mist cleared. The basin glowed with faint blue light, Umbra blood seeping into the cracks like veins of fire. Is it over? Miri asked, breathless. Lien stared into the fissure. No, it's learning what pain feels like. That takes time. The drones descended, capturing every detail. Billions of viewers across the galaxy would see this moment. The human who fought the galaxy's perfect predator and didn't blink. Tvar placed a hand on his shoulder. What will you call this victory? Lien stood, wincing but smiling. Dinner. He turned away, limping toward the horizon. Behind them, deep within the molten crack, something stirred. A faint voice, his voice, rose from the abyss. Lien teach. The mist began to move again, coiling like smoke around the basin's rim. Miri whispered, it's still alive. Lien didn't look back. Good, he said softly. That means class isn't over. And as the team disappeared into the glowing forest, the planet itself seemed to breathe, slow, deliberate, and waiting for the next lesson in the strange, terrifying language of humanity.